Hey, thanks for joining me, folks. I really do appreciate you stopping by, listening to some of the most interesting people in the world who I speak with. I'm very proud of having them right here on this podcast. I really seriously enjoy it, and I've spoken with so many up and comers in the music business, in the arts, entertainment, some leaders, some really great people, some amazing authors. I think that takes so much discipline to sit down and to write a book. And I'm just always impressed with everybody who I speak with. It's pure magic, the stuff that they all create. So, welcome to June 3rd, 2024. This is a beautiful, beautiful Monday. It's also known as, let me see, it's called Impersonate Authority Day. I just happened to come across that because the days I'm recording this, I always like say, well, there's always a special thing assigned to every single day of the calendar year. So I don't understand what Impersonate Authority Day is all about. I see very, very little information here on the net. This one site says this is the one that I have been tracking back to the holidays on Earth, but I didn't find it elsewhere except on other websites listed every holiday they could find. It could be encouraging people to influence confidence when they need it, and maybe when they just don't feel it. Or it could be mocking people who impersonate real authority for this less sane reasons. If you're going to do that, make sure you don't hurt anyone. And remember, a liar is never believed, even if he, or maybe she, they, or whatever, tells the truth. So I don't understand that. That's somebody taking a stab at Impersonate Authority Day. That's a very, very interesting thing. I do know it's 57 years since the Beatles released Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, one of the most creative albums ever created. Did you know that album clocks in just at 33 minutes, but it feels much bigger and more expansive than that. So 57 years since Sgt. Pepper, I think, was released on June 4th, but maybe June 3rd, 1967 in the UK, 57 years ago as I speak. But this is June 3rd, 2024. I have a lovely guest on the pod today. His name is JM Stevens, and he is an incredible singer, songwriter, wonderful artist who's out with yet another wonderful solo album. He has been in bands before, but he's been solo for quite some time. And this is a great new album called Nowhere to Land. We talk about everything and anything that's connected with the creation of this incredible new release. Has a great kickoff song called Dry Creek that we get into. And JM is out there constantly. He might be visiting a town near you. He's from West Point, Mississippi, and really he grew up on the stylings of Elvis. His mom was a wonderful church singer. We didn't really get into that. And his brother, I believe his name is Roger, was a founder. I didn't know he was a founder, but guitarist for the band called Blind Melon. Very big in the 90s, if you want to check out Blind Melon. But JM Stevens, check JM Stevens out. Constantly paying his dues, getting out there, writing incredible songs. He's always disciplined to create new music. And we get into that about how he was able to discipline himself during the pandemic and was able to write new material almost every single week. So that's tough for a songwriter. So check it out, JM Stevens with a V, not PH, .net. And here goes. Good morning. How you doing?
Doing all right. How are you doing? I'm trying to make this thing bigger. Let me figure out what I'm doing wrong here.
Yeah, we always got
Got
these
it.
things.
Got it. There we go. Are
Zoom.
you seeing me?
I do not see you. I could hear you.
Why it's not working? I checked all that. Every time, man, the Zoom
You know,
baffles me,
there
man. There
you
we
go.
go.
With Zoom, I'll tell you, with technology and this with all we do, then Zoom keeps changing things up. It's like I didn't see the record button, which I usually see on the bottom here. I'm like, oh, okay, I hit more. Now it's off to the right. They keep changing the the format. So That's life.
I tell you, I find it more complicated than doing like a full-on studio session.
Isn't that
I
crazy?
don't know why. It's through all the. I mean, I never even heard of it till the pandemic, and through all that, it just, every time it just gives me like, like doing live streams and stuff would give me the most anxiety, like worse stage fright than anything ever.
Isn't that nuts?
I
Yeah, I
don't
know
know why.
you face hundreds, thousands of people
Yeah,
and like, yeah, this damn Zoom button. What's going on with that? It's so true. I got into this during the pandemic. This was all born out of the pandemic because people like yourself were stuck at home. You couldn't perform live. You're doing these Facebook live chats and things like that.
yeah.
And I was like, oh, I could help, maybe get some of these people's names out there. I really thought this was going to last a lot longer than it did, as far as people being stuck at home and not being able to go out there and perform.
Yeah, could you imagine that? I mean,
Yeah.
it's crazy. It seems like a dream now, almost.
Yeah, it does. It does. And that's your bread and butter more so than the recording. What I've learned throughout all this is that it's just so much work to get it all together, and it almost feels like it's thankless that you're making pennies on the dollar, especially with streaming and all the competition out there now.
Yeah, there's a little bit for sure. You know, I feel like, going out and playing is the slow burn that nobody ever wants to think about. It's everybody's always looking for some sort of shortcut or viral something, and I don't know. It's like you just got to go out and do it. How I look at it.
Yeah,
And
and nothing's like the live performing. I mean, just simply, seeing you and hearing you in compressed audio online, it just doesn't even capture the vibe of just going to a live concert.
true, true. I've been out for like a month now. This is actually my last date of this tour is today in Mississippi, where I am, and
Okay.
um,
Yeah. So yeah,
playing every night.
yeah.
Almost. I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
That's all right though. It's good. It's a good feeling. It's a good
Where
time.
are you in Mississippi now?
I'm in a town called New Albany, but
Okay.
I'm playing in my hometown tonight in West Point, Mississippi.
Yeah. No, why West Point? And you were born and raised there?
I was.
Okay. How did your family end up there?
How did they end up in West Point? Well, like my dad grew up in Macon, which is just about, an hour away. And, I guess when he was a kid, they lived in Mobile, Alabama some, then they moved to Macon. And I guess at some point he decided to move to the big city. And
Yeah.
left Macon and went to West Point.
Got to
Yeah.
go where the work is. That's where
Yeah.
we've ended
Yeah.
up. Most of us have. So that's how I
Yeah.
ended up here in the South. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. So I never thought in a million years I'd be in Atlanta for
Ah,
3.5 decades now. It's just it's amazing how quick that goes by. I've lived here longer than where I grew up, so pretty
I'm
much an
about
honorary Southerner.
I'm about to tip that scale myself. I just drove through Atlanta yesterday.
Yeah, all points. Everything comes through Atlanta, America's colon.
Mhm.
It's it seems like
I haven't heard that one.
I
I've
think
heard
I
the
originated
armpit
that.
of America. I can't remember what they call that, but anyway, yeah, that's a good one.
Everything passes through. I, I might get three cents for every time that gets mentioned. Maybe I was thinking of that. I was like, everything comes through here, even well before I moved here. All the layovers, everything, as we all know, comes through here. So
I
yeah.
had a memory of Atlanta yesterday when I was driving through. I drove by Six Flags and it brought back something I haven't thought of in a long time, which when I was a kid, that would be a vacation destination, to
Oh
load,
wow,
load up the station wagon, Clark Griswold style, just like, pretty much just like the movie. Go to
that's
Six
funny.
Flags. And I was terrified to get on those roller coasters then, and I'm still not very keen on it.
Oh yeah, I'm more motion sensitive now, but I remember, yeah, I've been to Six Flags a few times out there. Yeah, so you just came out on I-20 probably from, worked your way over there. I'm sure. That,
I was coming from Asheville, North Carolina, so
oh, okay.
I can't remember what road I was on. I've been on
Love
a lot of
Asheville.
roads. Asheville, man, it was nice.
Yeah, beautiful town. Wow, it's been a while since I've been there, but yeah, I remember the transformation going on up there. It's just the mountains itself are great, but yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, I had a good show there. Played at a place called the Gray Eagle. Never been there, never played there. You know, kind of going back to what you were saying earlier, small crowd. I played kind of early on the patio, but
Cool.
the thing is everybody that was there came up and talked to me and they bought stuff and bought records and signed my list. And so, you know what I'm saying is I made a little something there and now I'll go back in the fall and hopefully build it up a little bit. You know, that's how it works for me, you
Oh,
know.
that's so cool. Yeah, yeah. So it's
You never
grueling
know.
doing the touring. Yeah, I'm sure.
You never know what you're going to step into, which I find quite invigorating. You know, playing places I've never been. It really makes you get on your game.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Do you have like a ritual before you go on stage? Like, basically, getting yourself all prepped. I mean, these days, people from like Heart, they do yoga before the show.
Uh-huh. I uh I do some kind of breath of fire thing they call it, just this breathing
Yeah.
thing I like to do, and I do some vocal. I mean, I kind of constantly do vocal exercises, even when I'm driving down the road, whatever, just so I feel like I'm always ready. Like if somebody said, "You've got to sing right now," I'm going to be ready to do it. You know, rather than trying to cram it all in at once. You know, so I always do some quick vocal exercises, and I've also been doing them usually earlier in the day as well. Say if I'm driving from point A to point B, I'll do them in the car. You know, just so I'm ready to go.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. I always see
So
people
singing every night,
backstage.
you
Yeah.
know, singing every night is it's like any other muscle, and you got to keep it prepped. So
Yeah, you have to do that and have those kind of. And I've talked with so many different artists, and some have to get into that zone. And I think the bigger you get, like I've heard some crazy rituals some people do backstage, or they even have it in their riders, like, "Hey, don't look at us."
all
Some
right.
performers I like who shall not be named. Are like, well, yeah, I mean, I can understand it. You got your no matter how long you've been doing it too, there are always those bundle of nerves. You're just doing that performance over again. So yeah, some probably still smoke and do things like that just because they're always nervous. No matter how long you've been at that as a veteran performer, I'm sure.
That never goes away for me. I mean, in a perfect world, I like to have some alone time,
Yeah.
before the show. So I always appreciate a nice green room where you can escape.
Yeah.
But,
Isn't that nice?
not every place. I'm playing a lot of new places I've never been on this run. Not every place even has a green room. So it just depends where I'm at.
Yeah. And speaking of green rooms, have you done TV appearances like local stations have you on their morning shows or anything like
I've
that?
done all that stuff. I've done,
Yeah.
over the years. One reason is a lot of times somebody will come up and want to talk a lot. And especially, let's say you're playing somewhere and there's a band playing before you, right? And you're out maybe milling around a little bit, checking that band out. I had this happen in Chattanooga the other day.
Love Chattanooga. Yeah.
A fella came up and just kept wanting to talk and have conversations. And you're having to talk over this band a little bit. And after a while, I'm just like, like I can't talk. I can't be yelling over this band. Like I got to save my voice. That's one thing that'll wear your voice out quicker than anything is trying to yell over a band in a room. So anyway,
Yeah.
alone,
Yeah.
quiet is good if possible. The
Very good.
green room
Yeah.
could be my vehicle sometimes.
Yeah, and that's a whole different thing when you're doing TV. It's just like it's not really so conducive like as if you're in a venue. It's just a whole different animal when you're doing TV and you're probably in a different mindset. You don't have that live audience. All you have is the crew and the host of like a morning show or something like that. So that's got to have
Oh
a
yeah,
way different vibe.
that's a way different vibe. That's more kind of feels a little more technical in some way, a little more tweaky, like that,
Yeah.
and freaky. Yeah,
Right. It's not the studio. It's not the
yeah,
live club. It's TV. It's and you're on their set and doing their thing. You're their guest.
yeah. Well, here's the difference. TV, that's being taped, even though people are taping
Right.
shows a lot, but there's something about knowing that like whatever you do, that's it forever. On a record, in the studio, you get some redos, if it's live
True.
TV or even taped, you got one shot, and a lot of times it's early in the morning,
Yes. Yeah.
and that's the hardest time to kind of give a good vocal performance, at least for me.
I've been in TV now almost 36 years, and as an intern up in Cleveland, it was the first 6 a.m. show in the country back in the late 80s. It was one of the very first, and they keep getting earlier and earlier. So, you probably got a show now that starts at like 4 in the morning. I'm like, why
Right,
are these locals doing this? This is insane.
right. Yeah, there's definitely. I did one in Austin like that not that long ago. That was like you had to be there at like 3:30. Like what the hell, you know?
And they make it look really glamorous, those hosts.
Yeah,
There must be
everybody's
on
all
20 pots of coffee or something like that. It's just crazy. It really is. So speaking of that, now you have a new album out. This is no, what number album is this for you? It's called Nowhere to Land.
This is my second album as a solo artist. Yeah, I had one come out in 2000, early 2020, which that timing was great. Uh,
No time to promote that one.
right,
Just
right, yeah.
online only.
Well, it came out before the pandemic, so I did a little tour in the UK and did some stuff around the Southeast, and then everything else got canceled, as it did with so many.
And that was Invisible Lines. Now you're here over 3.5 years later with this new album. What's the inspiration for it? What is Nowhere to Land? What's the meaning behind that title?
I wrote that song just about, there was a lot of upheaval going on in the world, and I think people were having, um, seemed like nobody was understanding one another.
Yeah, we've been in that mode for a while
And
now.
it's kind of a song about empathy in some ways, I would say, and trying to see, somebody else is hurting, and maybe you don't quite relate personally, but being able to relate or to have empathy for them. So that's what inspired that song, and I was trying to come up with an album title. I had the whole thing recorded, and I had all these ideas for album titles. And my daughter, she's sitting there and she goes, "Why don't you just call it Nowhere to Land?" And I'm like, "Wow, what do you think?" I was like, "You know what? You're right. That really sums up this thing to me." I thought about it a bit, and that's what I went with. I just liked how it rang out, and kind of felt like it encapsulated where I was in my life at the time,
Yeah.
feeling
Yeah, it
like
totally does. Sometimes it's right in front of you. It's like, wait,
so
here's this,
obvious.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. Is your daughter really involved with your career and your development? Is she helping you does she help you with songwriting, or is she pretty much just like there behind the scenes?
Let's say she has her ideas.
Yeah.
She'll tell me her opinion. I respect her. She's about to turn 19, so she's a freshman
Oh,
in college. I respect her, how she listens to music, how she hears music, how she talks about it, talking about her, artists that she's into. And so, yeah, like I had one song that had a lyric that I had changed around, and I played it back for her. And it was something that I never really even thought about. It was a little change. And she heard back the final verse and she goes, "Why did you change that lyric?" I was like, "I didn't even know you knew the lyric, what it was."
wow.
I ended up going back and punching it in and changing it back to the simplified form that it was. I was trying to do some clever wordplay. And she was like, "Nah, it was better the way that it was." I was like, "All right, I'm gonna trust you on that," and I did. She also helped me sequence the album
Oh, wow. Cool.
because I kind of, at that point in making a record, I might be pretty spent on the thing, and it's hard to, to see the big picture sometimes because you've been in such a bubble with it. And so, we broke it out in a side A and side B type situation and came up with the sequence. Yeah,
It's great to have somebody from that generation who's much
totally.
more in tune with the landscape out there now to give you that feedback. So hopefully you're bridging that. Are you kind of getting that at the shows? You're getting younger people coming in?
Yeah, I feel like it. I did one, and I think the best one that showed that was in Boonton, New Jersey on this tour. I did the show at a place called Boonton Coffee, and they had this killer listening room in there. And I played with a local band from there, and that show was packed, and it was all young folks, and they really, really dug it, and it was a great night. It was a great vibe. I felt like
Hmm.
I was on the same wavelength. So a lot
Yeah.
of people came up and said they were really, really moved by the songs and stuff. So I mean, that's all I can hope for.
Yeah, to have that connection and in the new material really resonating, that must feel pretty good just getting out there trying. And how long does it take you to like rehearse the newer material and to get it into the set?
Well, the thing about this album is I had been playing these songs for a bit, doing these live streams and stuff, and almost kind of testing them out. And one way I was looking at it, because I'm always trying to say, okay, if I'm going to take the time to set up all this, to do a good live stream, make it sound good and stuff, I will also want to be, doing something, moving forward with it. So how can I do that? Well, I'm going to try out some new songs. I'm going to, you know, just kind of feel that reaction into the void that is doing it that way. So I had a lot of them pretty dialed in from that, and I'd recorded them obviously. But I also play several new songs that I haven't recorded yet
Oh, good.
tour. So I've been doing a lot of new stuff. I've written one or two since I've been out here and played those. So those will season a little bit more, hopefully.
And you
But
got into a ritual during COVID to discipline yourself. Did you join a songwriters group I was reading, and then basically you were coming out with something, writing down something every week, or
it was
it
like
sounds like a, yeah.
every week you had to turn a song in by a certain time, say like Wednesday at midnight or whatever, and so that really forced you to, or forced me to. I always say it's just like you get a little less precious with it and just finish something. You can always go back and tweak, right? Sometimes you don't realize you need that. Or the only thing to help present that is time. So that obvious good line, maybe you didn't hit that when you wrote it, but you got the song down, you got the melody down, you got the structure and the cadence down. Then once your brain is clear of those things, then some of the maybe those better lyrics or lines will have room to blossom. That's how I look at it.
So where do you get your inspiration on the road? Do you get it on the road? Do you pull over and start writing down old style in a notebook or your notes on your phone?
Usually the phone thing. I,
Yeah.
I've just got, I don't know how you would say it in the phone, just rows of those little, and I'll go back and look at, sometimes I'll just hum a melody into there and I'll say where I was because I did one the other night in Asheville. I was sitting on the balcony of this motel I was in, and this lightning was rolling over the mountain, and it was just this. It sparked a memory and a thing, and so I write down where I was and kind of what it was like in that moment. And when I go back and look at it later, I can get myself back to that place, you
Yeah.
know. And so that's helpful. If I'm doing it on my phone, if I'm driving, I'll say, "Hey, I'm driving through, you know." the Smoky Mountains, and here's a melody that came to me. It may not even be words; it may just be voweling sounds. Just blah da da, but a melody, and then I'll go back later and kind of dig through those, and maybe one will jump out at me. Right? Could be a month later, and if it jumps out at me, then at that point I'm kind of hearing it like maybe a person somebody else, right? Because I've never heard that. I've forgotten about it at that point. And if it's good to me, then I know, okay, I'm gonna I'm going to explore this further, and then I'll flesh it out.
Yeah.
That's
And
one way it works.
do you do that on the road or do you basically wait till you get back home? How does that process work for you when you get that initial idea and then, oh yeah, I'll just shelve this until I get back home or I'll just do it immediately.
Sometimes the former, but I have had a few. Like for instance, I was in Lafayette, Louisiana, and I opened for this Zydeco artist down there named Cedric Watson, who was just incredible. And the band he had, his groove was so good. And when I was leaving, I was carrying my stuff out, and this melody kind of hit me, and the words started. Sometimes you just hear a phrase, just the way that the words sound. And I did finish that one out, and like that night, and then I was playing it. Practiced it a couple of times and did it at the next show. So I'm looking forward to recording that one. Yeah, it's called As It Seemed. But anyway, that'll be. I'll record that one soon. So that one did happen pretty quick.
Yeah, yeah, always creating, and that's very inspirational to hear that. You have a great song, Dry Creek. I always want to know the origin of that song, and that's your opener for this album.
It is. Um, this is going to sound maybe so obvious that like it won't sound that deep, as my daughter would say. Now the meaning of it went beyond what initially sparked the idea, but it was literally sparked by. It was during right when all these lockdowns and stuff were starting to happen, and nobody knew what the heck was going on. It felt very apocalyptic, and everything was shut down in Austin. It was just like looked like a movie. There was nothing. And I was out running because that was kind of the only thing keeping me a little sane during that time.
I can understand that.
And I went over this little bridge that I go over, and the creek was was dry, and I just liked that word. I liked that phrase, and it got me thinking about, well, one day this river, this water will flow again. And it just sparked the idea of that song, which is about feeling, I guess, just kind of having hope in hard times, or hope for the future, or breaking free from something that feels like it's a burden or holding you back. So,
Yeah. It's so true. It's like when you were in the middle of it, it's like, yeah, you didn't even know if you saw the light through the trees. So you use that metaphor, like, yeah, that creek's gonna flow again. I mean, it will, but it's hard to believe in that moment. It's like, gosh, I don't know if it ever will again. It's hard to believe. I mean, there are no assurances. There's no date where we know it's gonna be filling up again. It's just like, well, I guess we go through cycles. Well, we'll get rain again here.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, I look at it as a positive song. The melody I feel like has a little bit of a uncertain feel to it. It never quite resolves, and that's just how it shook out. That was one of those songs that the kind that plop out pretty quickly. I like that. It's
Yeah, yeah, something that's
less. I always
inspirational.
say it's less work. It presents itself. So we love it when that happens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you're just inspired by like what's right in front of you. You write what you know. I think the song Cobwebs comes to mind too. It's like it's right in front of you. You see that and then you see all the meaning behind that and attach something to it.
hmm That's you were not the first person to ask me about that song, and I'll tell you how I came up with it. So, uh, an artist in Austin named Betty Sue, and she actually sang harmonies on a lot of the album. She was doing this thing during the pandemic called Nobody's Happy Hour, which is a brilliant title in itself.
Yeah.
But so she would have different artists on there and do kind of like what we're doing. We do an interview, and but everybody would play songs back and forth. And she had this wheel that you would spin, kind of like a Wheel of Fortune thing, and whatever it landed on, you had to do it. So it may be like, tell us about a book or a movie you just watched or whatever. And one of the prompts was write a song on the spot. which is terrifying.
I know. How
But
do you
she had
just
a,
do that?
yeah, she
It's
had
like,
a pretty good audience watching that every week. She was really good at it. And so I was in that wheel for a week. I knew I was going to be on the show. I just found it very, very, very terrifying, which of course makes me, I have to force myself, okay, I'm going to do this, because it is scary. And I do my first spin, and I'm praying that it doesn't land on that one. And of course, the first thing it lands on is write a song on the spot.
no
And I'm like,
pressure there.
oh man, the world, the universe, I tell you.
That reminds me of this song called Picasso's Last Words that Paul McCartney wrote. And he was challenged by Dustin Hoffman to write a song, and that was the result. And I think it was all written on napkins. I don't know if they were out to dinner or something like that. He's like, I challenge you to just write this. And then, of course, the genius pulls that out.
Yeah, so I'm sitting there figuring out what I'm going to do, and I started kind of messing around on a little riff, which was real close to the one that the song ended up at. And I'm looking around the room, just kind of looking for inspiration, and I see these cobwebs that are up in the corner on the ceiling, and the kind that that you one of those things that you look at forever, and I'll get to it later or whatever. You let it build up, you let it fester, and so that's how I came up with it. I just said something like cobwebs on the ceiling, cobwebs on the floor, hanging in the corner. So I had that first line, and yeah, I didn't have to obviously write a whole song on the spot, but just a little bit. And so I did, and I never really thought about it again. It was just some little thing you throw off. And this fella down in Alexandria, Louisiana, who was watching the show, his name's Thomas Martin. He's just a big music freak. I didn't know him at the time, but he messaged me on Facebook. I didn't know who this guy was, and he's like, "Hey, man, I was watching your thing on, Betty Sue sing, and you did that little bit, Cobwebs." He's like, "You should finish that song." I thought I was really moved by it. I was like, "That's about all it takes for me." So I did. I finished it out, pretty much because of him.
Yeah, Betty Sue. Yeah, that's a big name. I know that's a name in Austin, and she works with some other artists. I interviewed one of the people who she also works with. Who there's like a trio, I think, that they when they go out and perform. So yeah, she's definitely an Austin name. There's a lot of great talent in Austin.
Oh, tons. Yeah, tons. I mean, like all the just the crew that I pulled together on this album are just some of my favorite players. But there's a lot. Yeah,
Yeah, is
let's get a
Johnny
horn.
Keys from there? Johnny Keys Grossman.
He's a Kentucky fella, but he's lived in Austin for
Wow.
I don't know 10 or 15 years, something like that. He's an Uncle Lucius, and that's how he ended up in Austin. I think he met them on the road, and they said, "Hey, you want to be in the band?" And that's what got him there.
Yeah. What made you go totally solo? Because you were part of a band. Just it was time. Just like you see you just get that gut feeling.
I think it's in my case, I felt like the band I was in, we'd made 4 or 5 albums, and it had been you know 17, 18 years, and I just really
Mm.
felt like I was pushing a rock up a hill, you know, and I was like, I just needed to do something else.
Yeah, yeah.
I like I
You
had
know,
a lot. I felt like I had a lot in me that I wasn't really able to explore. So
yeah,
that's what happened, and it was definitely a big decision. It was a leap of faith for me, and I'd never even done a lot of solo shows. I mean, I had a little bit, but not really. You know what I mean? I'd always
oh
been on
yeah,
stage with the band, with a loud band. So it's a whole different thing. It's yeah. So definitely made me up my game and kind of reevaluate even how I was playing the guitar and how I approached the guitar and everything. You know, I realized that like a lot of the songs I was doing, if I did them solo, they didn't quite work because I
yeah,
felt like they relied on power rather than nuance. They relied on volume and all these things rather than like I remember I was hanging out with someone and we were sitting around and playing and they were like, "Hey, play something." And I didn't really feel like I didn't really have anything that I could really that really worked in that way. You know, and I was like,
Yeah.
"That's not cool. I need to be able to. I need to get better at this."
Yeah.
You know, and I'm still trying to get better at it. But so it changed my writing for sure. I really got into playing acoustic guitar. To be honest with you, I don't remember last time I picked up electric guitar, as crazy as that sounds. I just connected with the acoustics so much. I mean, I played a little electric guitar on the record. Uh, there's just something about the ease of, man, I can just grab this thing and it sounds
Yeah.
awesome and I feel it. And having to deal with, oh, I got to get an amp going and
Right.
pedals. Just got burned on it, man. You know, lugging stuff around all the time. Just,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. More work to, more of a lugging this thing around. So yeah, acoustic, way lighter, very easy to just grab and say, "Here's my inspiration." Well, yeah, and it was the Diddy TV that compared you with Bruce Springsteen, those kind of guys, Jackson Brown, Don Henley.
they can say that, and I will graciously accept.
That's
I
great
mean,
company. I
I
mean,
don't.
like,
Yeah, I
I
mean, the other thing is, I I really wanted to work on being the best singer that I could, and I felt like, you know, with the band, I was always buried and having to yell over it, and the sound's never right. And I mean, that's not all the time, you know, but I wanted to force myself to be able to like pull out a song just sitting there with the guitar and really make it speak. And when I started doing it, you know, I was like, I've really got a lot to learn here. You know, I remember one thing that was really eye-opening for me is my band at the time, we were playing at South by Southwest, and we were on a bill, and, you know, we had a really good show and it was rocking. And then about the next artist after us was Sean Colvin, you know,
hmm,
from Austin.
yeah,
She
yeah.
got up with just
Uh,
a guitar and owned that thing. And I was like, wow. You know, it's like I couldn't do that. I want to be able to do that, you know.
it's
So
great to, yeah,
it
to
really
aspire to
inspired me.
things. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's really, really cool. And do you do any covers in your live performances? You got a lot of originals. You could probably just stick with that, but some just do either snippets or full covers.
Oh, I do. I have a whole list of them that I can pull out per vibe of the show. You know, if I feel like, all right, I need to, you know, maybe I need something to kind of. Sometimes people might need, especially if it's a cold audience that's never heard me. You know, sometimes I might feel like, you know, I need to give them a little reference point here or something.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I feel like I can kind of, I can read, I feel like I can at least. Maybe it's drama that a movie I'm making in my mind, but that's okay. That's real. You know, I feel like I can tell that, all right, I need to give them a reference here. So I'll pull out a cover and then I feel like maybe people will start latching on to the songs a little more. So I'm trying to think of what I pulled out. Like the other night, I did "Cold Cold Heart" by Hank Williams. I have a version of that I pulled out, you know. Or I might do. I'm trying to think. I don't have my list in front of me. I can't even
Sure,
think of the
sure.
ones I
Yeah.
do. But I do stuff like old Kinks song and stuff like that, you
Well,
know.
anything from Blind Melon.
I do not do any Blind Melon. Um,
It's a big band. So that's your older brother who's been playing guitar with them.
but yeah, I mean he started the band. You know, him and two other buddies from Mississippi, you know, in the 90s.
Yeah, that goes back. A real reference point in my career too. It's just I remember it well. But and growing up, you were pretty much inspired by Elvis.
Well, that's the first music that I can remember hearing and knowing, hey, that's a human being making this music that's coming off of this spinning record. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Because like
absolutely.
where I grew up is only, you know, 45 minutes from Tupelo, where Elvis was from. So, you know, you just, Elvis was kind of like PV amps, you know, he was just everywhere down
Oh, I'm
there.
sure.
So it wasn't really, it was kind of unavoidable. So yeah, but I do,
Yeah,
I mean, the first song I remember hearing was Love Me Tender. And I had a little 45 of it. I just, you know, have a memory of that. So, well,
yeah.
that's later.
Yeah, my generation. I mean, I remember just the movies probably more so than the career. They were more of my parents' generation with Elvis. But yeah, I think I was just more exposed to Beatles and Wings at the same time. It's just like, and that has a huge influence on what you're gonna do in your career. So that's got to be, a big part of that.
Oh, for sure. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
any radio, I feel like sometimes I'm like, if I really get down to it, I may have not evolved much past, you know, I mean, the stuff you hear when you're young, it's really etched in deeply into you. So it's like any of that AM radio stuff I heard, it's always still there. You know,
Yeah. Always
radios.
is.
I've always loved a tight song with a good chorus and melody. I can't get past it. I feel like I'm even getting more back to that now.
Yeah. And you've dabbled a bit in music video as well. I see some stuff here on YouTube, some interesting cuts that you've done over the years. How's that process for you? Do you enjoy doing the music videos?
I do, and I was just thinking about that this morning. I was like, I need to. I just didn't have time to do a video for anything off the new record yet, but I'm going to when I get back to Austin. I've been talking to a fella there, come up with a concept, which is always the difficult part. I'd
Yeah.
like to find somebody that's just like, you just do it.
Right.
Come
A
up with
lot of
something and
artists
make
do that. Yeah. It's like they're
it
not behind the
happen.
music video. It's the video director. A lot of people think, oh yeah, the artist is behind releasing the singles and doing the videos. It's like they have nothing, they're just showing up for it.
Yeah, I had, you know, ideas. I have some ideas that I'm tossing around, but I'm kind of so this album, you know, was done. It was sitting there for a bit, and then it was kind of like, oh, we're going to release it, and I was booking a tour, and the music video didn't happen. A lot of times you may want to put one out with a single right off the bat, but I don't know if I totally agree with that. I mean, I do agree with it, but I also think don't blow it all right off the top, you know. I mean, there's still plenty of time. I think they're a great way to just keep the cycle going, you know. So I might drop two music videos, you know, over the next few months, just to keep the album going. It's a great way to spark it up again, I think.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, YouTube's a big player now. It used to be MTV, but with the internet, YouTube, you can just basically go on there. They look you up. There you are visually. One that really caught my eye, Further I Run. That's a pretty interesting concept. It seems like it's going from black and white to color throughout the entire
it does.
video.
Oh man, I'm glad you caught that. That video was made during deep in the pandemic when you couldn't even get people together. And of course, I was like, let's make a music video, you know? And so I was trying to come up with a concept. And I've always loved videos that are like one of my favorites is Brilliant Disguise by Bruce
Yeah.
Springsteen. Oh, by the way, I do that song sometimes.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful.
I gotta
Yeah.
do a kind of a chill version of it. But
That's a good one.
you know, the video is one camera. That's it. He's
Yeah.
sitting
Just
there and it slowly moves in.
right.
And I love videos like that. If I see too much, for me personally, I'm just not into the kind of blockbuster, you know, style videos. I mean, I get it, but that doesn't move me the same, you know. So with the further I run, I was just coming up with something to do, and I just had a vision of kind of a gravel road like that. And I rode around Austin trying to find somewhere, and I found that spot about 20 miles out of town. And I explained it to Marty Robbins, the director. I was like, I
Mm.
want to do this thing that I read about where you speed up the song like triple speed, right? And so the track is playing, and I'm moving really quickly and mouthing it and walking along, like almost running. And then when you slow it back to regular speed, it gives this woozy kind of slow motion effect, but
Oh,
it's still synced. So that's how we did that video. And we did the video in maybe from top to bottom in half a day, and it's done. And so I like that concept. You know, it's just a one shot. There's no edits. So we just had to do the takes until we got it right. I was inspired by that. Even more inspired, I got a video on there called Yesterday Lied, which was even more inspired by the one shot thing of that scene in Goodfellas when they're going through the kitchen, and then it shows them and they
right.
enter. And, you know, that's all one shot. I'm claiming no filmdom here, but I know they call it a one shot.
Yeah, it's just
But there's no
continuous.
edit.
There's no edit. Yeah.
And so you have to just rehearse the timing. And it's almost like doing a performance, you know. You have to rehearse the timing, get every little move just right. And so I'm just really into that concept at the time of doing both of those videos because it's doable, you know,
Yeah.
and it's like now we're not going to spend a month going back and forth on all these edits. It's like, let's just pick a take, you know, so we do like 3 or 4 takes and okay, that's the one. Now let's, you know, maybe do some treatment on it, make it look cool, but we have the video is done because there's really no choices here.
Yeah, that's
It's
nice,
fun.
nice and simplistic,
Yeah.
and you're keeping that vibe. I like that reel to reel machine in Yesterday Lied. It's just that old school looking. It's just really nice. Everything's so digital now. I just love seeing the spinning of that. It's just really neat.
That's how I recorded that song. It was recorded on that machine, so
Oh,
it's
that's cool.
real. You know, another video like that that I love. You know that song, the video to the Replacements, "Masters
Oh,
of the Young," where it shows the speaker and it shows the
yeah.
guy's hand, and he's just that's the. I think that's brilliant. You know, he's watching his foot tap, and you see the cigarette, and
It's
you know,
true video art. Yeah, that's for sure.
I like
The that song "Runaway Stare" and that good video too. It just gave me that Bon Jovi vibe, just like when he was kind of doing more countryish stuff too. Somehow that vocal kind of reminds me of that.
Oh, cool.
It
Yeah.
really feels that way. But yeah, and really great. And then conversely, maybe "I Love You" is like really big with your horn section, which is so different from your more mellow stuff.
Yeah, that song, I, I was messing around with a looper pedal and I hit on that riff, and that one was one that popped out pretty quickly. And I was hearing this, you know, originally didn't have the horns and all that. And my buddy Kevin Lovejoy, who played keyboards on that song, piano in B3, he was messing around down in the studio, hitting on a little toy piano, and he started doing that dun, 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 which is this. I was like, dude, what is? I love that. That's very like darkness on the edge of towny kind of melody, and then I started hearing the horn parts and made that happen. I sent the song to a fella, uh, Russell Haight. He's actually a professor of jazz. I'm pretty sure at Texas
Oh.
State, but he's a really good horn arranger. So I just sent him the song. It's like, come up with something cool. Gave him some general ideas. He sent me back a rough cut of the horns. I was like, great, but I want you to do a sax solo. He didn't have that in there. And he came in and brought a trumpet player and they knocked it out in like one take, you know.
Nice.
He had it all
Yeah.
charted out, boom, 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 super pro. And then I said, all right, do a sax solo. And he did 2 takes and I picked the first one.
Awesome. Well, great new album. You got 10 tracks. Did you want to make that longer, shorter? How did you come up with 10 on this new album?
Those, I did record more, which I will release the others. But those 10 for whatever reason, were fitting together.
Yeah.
They were all written in the same general time frame. So maybe there's something to that. They just had a vibe, and I had done a rough mix of those and had just been listening to them, and I just got used to it. I think it's almost like with mixes. I think, a lot of times you do a mix, and when you first listen to it, you are you're fine tooth combing it, and you're not hearing the big. You're looking at nuance, but over time, if you sit on it for a bit, a lot of that stuff starts melting away, and then you're just hearing the song. That's what you want it. For me, that's what I want to get to, and that's kind of how it worked with those 10. I'd just been hearing them together, and this is before there was any instrumentation, it was just acoustic and vocal. But it was the same performance that's on the album. So I was like, it wasn't really a huge thought process. It was just like, these feel good, these 10.
Nice.
It's a good length. It's going to fit nicely on a side A, side B of a vinyl.
Yeah.
And because you want like 18 a side is nice for Sonics. So that was it. It was just a natural seasoning, marination.
Do you have a lot of pressed on vinyl? I mean, are you doing vinyl, CD, digital, all of the formats?
For this album,
Yeah, for your latest.
I did press CDs, and believe it or not, I've been selling them nicely on the road. People still buy them. Some people
Yeah,
say, "Why do you do CDs?" I disagree. I think people still buy them. I've been selling them, so I know that.
good.
The vinyl, the bummer was the vinyl wasn't ready in time, typically, for the tour. Then I had to switch plants because they kind of they blew it, honestly. This one plant I was dealing with. So I switched plants, and the new plant is really kicking ass at it. And
Yeah.
so when I get back, I've got a test press waiting on me, and hopefully I'll just approve it, and then I'll have them in a few weeks because I have pre-sold a bunch of them. So I got to do it now. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
deep.
They're waiting
But
for their product.
yeah, I mixed it specifically thinking about vinyl. So definitely it's happening.
Yeah. All recorded in East Austin.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Sounds
place.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Did you do a lot of overdubbing in this?
So this album was made in a way that I have never done before for my music. I've done it for other people, but because I wasn't able to get everybody in the studio together,
Right.
I recorded it all vocal and guitar together to a loop. I would make a groove for each song, just something that I found inspiring. Cut the vocal and guitar. Once I had that nailed down where I felt really good about it, I did the whole album like that. So like I wanted it to work just with that. And then I started adding. So I was pretty aware of not trying to overwhelm that. I didn't want to lose that part of it because I know I'm gonna be out playing solo a lot and they have to work that way. So yeah, I just built it from the ground up. I had George Duran come in and lay the drums. We did all the drum tracks in one day, I think, and spent some time, dialing in the tones each per song, which was nice. I mean, really getting nerdy, like, hey, let's try a different kick drum beater for this song, stuff like
Yeah.
that. So we just did all the drum tracks, and I sent that to everyone else. So they're hearing the song with the drums, and everybody charted them out and learned their parts, and they came in and did their parts. And I mean, I might have ideas, but I tend to not say anything. I just roll it, see
Yeah.
what people do naturally. And then if we need to tweak something, or maybe they hit something, I'm like, man, that was really great what you did in that pre-chorus right there. Let's repeat that in this one. Maybe it's a little hook that somebody did just off the cuff, but sometimes that's the best stuff.
True.
Just those improvisational things.
Very nice. Well,
Yeah.
thanks so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. This is a great new recording. go out there and get it. The vinyl's coming out soon. Where can we find you on the net?
jmstevens.net. And that'll
Excellent.
link you to all of my social medias, which are all just JM Stevens, JM Stevens Music. Some of them are, but I'm on all the places.
Yeah, yeah. And you're just finishing up a tour. Are you going to get back out on the road?
Man, I'm already working on doing some stuff in West Texas in June, which I love going out there. It's like another planet. I'm already booking a fall tour.
Good.
So I think I'm going to hit some of these same places again. Yeah, I've been on the road for a month on this run, and I'm going to do a similar thing. Maybe some more Midwest spots on this run. But
Good.
so just keep trucking along, man.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks so much for having me.
Have a good one.
You too.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Well, thanks for joining me. We keep going here, chugging along. Thanks for visiting my little corner of the world. And we will have more and more artists coming on here. I got some good people coming up. So stay tuned and thank you so much for downloading. I suppose I haven't done this. If you could go on Apple Podcasts and rate me, I don't know anything about that. But please give me 5 stars or whatever, 6 stars or whatever it is. I greatly appreciate that. I'm not getting into these algorithms and stuff which I know I should, but probably need to take a class on that. Anyway, thank you so much. Take care.